Hi, everybody. It's Eric Murray from the sugarhuddle.com. Well, they always talk about coaches giving inspiring speeches, either pregame or even at halftime for that matter in football. Either you've seen it in the movies or you've seen actual coaches do it and just completely firing up their football teams. And Dallas Cowboys, they definitely needed it coming into Thursday night's game against the Saints. They were hosting the Saints. Even though the Cowboys were on a 3-game winning streak, they were playing arguably the best team in football, the Saints, who were on a 10-game winning streak, hadn't lost since week one. Nobody was giving the Cowboys a chance to win this one, myself included. Cowboys 7.5-point underdog. A lot of people thought, how could their offense keep up with New Orleans' offense? Dallas, as highly rated as their defense is, there's no way they're going to stop the Saints' offense, blah, blah, blah. And, their head coach, Jason Garrett, he's a guy who's very positive, very likable guy, but he's a guy that doesn't always fire his football team up. He has kind of the same emotion on the sidelines. He's been sarcastically called Coach Clap because he's kind of always clapping on the sidelines, try to encourage his team, even when things aren't going well, kind of the same thing over and over again. But apparently, a guy who's not real fiery, apparently on Wednesday night, he gave a real fiery, inspiring speech to completely fire up his football team. And the players were buzzing about it all day Thursday, and going into the game, that was something that was talked about on the Fox telecast. And it worked because the Cowboys somehow, some way, they found a way to win 13-10, and 13-0 lead at halftime. Completely fell apart in the second half, but they did what they needed to do in the end, and they got a win, huge win, 4 in a row, improved to 7-5. Now they're really in the driver's seat of the NFC East even more than they were coming into the game, because a lot of people thought they could lose this and still be in the driver's seat in the division. Now they're in really great shape. But, one of those things where even though it was kind of a tale of two halves, throughout Dallas was just the better team. New Orleans was really out of sorts early on. Their defense wasn't playing well. Offensively, they couldn't execute at all, and give Dallas defense a lot of credit for that. But a lot of it too was New Orleans. Drew Brees was out of sync, which you, especially this year, you really don't see from him ever. And his receivers, they were out of sync. They were dropping passes. They weren't getting the job done. Michael Thomas didn't have a real great night. He led the team receiving 5 catches, 40 yards, but didn't have a real great night. Alvin Kamara, he dropped a pass that would have been a first down at one point out of the backfield. So just all these things, it just kind of felt like early on, this isn't New Orleans' night. And, the thing about it is they go down 10-0 pretty quickly. They finally get something going, driving downfield, and they decide on about 4th and 1 from the 3-yard line. Instead of kicking a field goal and make it a 10-3 game, they decide they're going to try to score a touchdown to make it a 10-7 ball game. Well, they, tried to do a handoff out of the shotgun, and Alvin Kamara, he gets stuffed. They had a couple of runs on, short yardage, 3rd and short type plays that didn't work out for him, some questionable play calling. And so all of a sudden, Dallas backed up their own 2-yard line. What they do, they're able to drive downfield, get a field goal, make it 13-0 right before half. And just everything could go wrong did go wrong for the Saints in the first half of this game. And, before we talk about the second half and how it ultimately ended, let's just kind of go through some of these stats. So Dak Prescott, for the MVP season that Drew Brees is having, a half that he would usually have is the half that Dak Prescott had in the first half against the Saints on Thursday night. He was 15 of 17, 194 yards, and a touchdown. He actually had 18 straight completions at one point before he threw an incompletion in the fourth quarter, a couple incompletions in the fourth quarter. But 15 to 17, $194, and a touchdown. That's usually a Drew Brees stat line. That's despite the fact that he was running for his life. He was sacked 4 times in the first half and 7 times overall for 40 sack yards. Had a rating of over 130. Drew Brees, 39 passing yards in the first half, was his fewest as a Saint. Remember, he's been there since 2006, 7 of 13. New Orleans only had 59 total yards in the first half. They, only had the ball for a couple minutes in the first quarter, a little bit more in the second quarter, but nonetheless, Dallas dominated time possession. They actually ended up having about a 37 to 23 time possession, just under 37 minutes for the game. So they dominated in that. But New Orleans, 59 yards in the first half is all they had on 21 plays, 2.8 yards per play. Dallas, meanwhile, 229 yards on 39 plays, 5.9 yards per play. A couple of big things, obviously by that yardage, New Orleans only had 3 first downs in the first half. Dallas had 14. Third down conversions, New Orleans was 0 for 5. They finished 3 for 11 on the night. Dallas was 4 of 7. They finished 7 of 14, 50%, so they kept it up in the second half. Saints carried the ball 7 times, 28 yards. Dallas 18 for 56. And, New Orleans' 59 yards in the first half was the fewest for them in any half since 2002. And it was the first time in 72 games that they had been shut out in the first half, which was, the NFL's longest streak. So just, as terrible as you could play is basically the worst case scenario for New Orleans, best case scenario for Dallas is how the first half went. But you knew that there was no way that it was going to continue on second half. You knew that New Orleans was going to find a way to come back or get back in it at least. And that's exactly what they did. They came out and they were able to kick a field goal pretty quickly to start the second half, get the ball back right away a few plays later, and they get saved by some penalties, some stupid, foolish penalties, and Dallas kept shooting themselves in the foot. And the biggest one, New Orleans is forced to punt, and Brandy Gregory, for some reason, he tries to jump to block, stretch out to block it, and he was way late, and he not only runs into Thomas Morstead, the Saints punter, but he actually roughs him, crashes into his knee. Easy 15-yard personal foul call, and New Orleans is able to end up scoring to make it 13-10. So, and that was still a third quarter. So Dallas, all of a sudden, it was like a flip, script had been flipped in the second half. And anyways, the way it worked out is, Dallas drove downfield in the fourth quarter, long drive, I think something like 13 plays, had an opportunity to at least kick a field goal, make a 16-10 ball game, and Prescott gets sacked, loses it, New Orleans recovers. And then a couple plays later, Drew Brees, who had to do a lot of kind of sidearm dump-offs throughout the game with all the pressure he was getting, even though he was only sacked a couple times, he still got pressured a lot. He throws it way inside of his receiver, big miscommunication. He's just trying to get rid of the ball, and it goes right to Jordan Lewis, the Cowboys cornerback, who picks it off. I think it might have been his first pick of the year, but I'm not 100% sure on this, so don't quote me on that. So anyways, then Dallas, they're at the 10 or 15-yard line or whatever, and the Saints still had one timeout, and there was still, a little under 3 minutes to play. So the Saints used that timeout at, I think, the 2:03 mark, second down. Dallas is like, well, we got a free play here. So Dak tries to throw it to the end zone to Amari Cooper, and he gets interfered with by Marshawn Lattimore. That seals the game. That's how all she wrote. So that's how Dallas pulled it off. Big win for the Cowboys. Prescott, like I said, had 18 straight completions at one point. His final numbers, 24 of 28, 8.9 yards an attempt, 248 yards, and that first half touchdown, sacked 7 times. He only had 22 yards and 5 carries, but he had a big first down gain on the eventual fumble drive, which is a huge play. Really did a great job breaking tackles on that. Zeke Elliott had 23 carries for just 76 yards, 31 for 100 as a team, but he had 6 receptions for 60 yards in that early touchdown. Leighton Vander Esch, 10 tackles. He actually leads the NFL in solo tackles as a rookie. Pretty remarkable. And, on New Orleans' side, their defense, those 7 sacks, David Onyemata had 3, Cam Jordan had 2. So those 2 guys kind of kept them in it on that side of the ball. Their secondary was pretty hit or miss in this one. But Breeze, not much better in the second half. Overall was 18 of 28, buck 27, touchdown, and that costly pick at the end, 4.5 yards per attempt. As a team, they had 19 carries for 65 yards. Kamara, 11 for 36. Mark Ingram, 7 for 27. Like I said, Michael Thomas is 5 for 40 receiving. Sometimes that's a first quarter for him. That was the entire game. Really tough. So obviously not the end of the world kind of loss for the Saints, and you knew their winning streak was going to end eventually, but certainly didn't expect in this fashion. Dallas, the top 2 or 3 defense that doesn't always perform like this. They did it today, and now definitely in the driver's seat of the NFC East. They've got Philadelphia next week. That's going to be a huge matchup. If Philly beats Washington, they're 6-6. They're still within a game of Dallas. If that happens, it'll be interesting to see what happens head-to-head there. And New Orleans has Tampa, so they've got a golden opportunity, even though Tampa was their week 1 loss prior to this Dallas loss. They should be able to beat up on Tampa and get the revenge this time, even on the road. So not the end of the world for New Orleans. Gives them an opportunity to kind of say, okay, we're not invincible. But a huge win for the Cowboys, 4 in a row, 7-5 now, and it looked like this was going to be kind of the typical November-December choke job by the Cowboys, but they pulled it off. Great win for the Cowboys, and obviously I'll have more on this game in my article on the sugarhuddle.com. So go to sugarhuddle.com, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also like my Facebook page, The Sugar Huddle. Thanks.